Hi, it's Ava. I am taking a video after having a 3 hour conversation with my CFO and major investment partner, I guess is what you call it, to talk about goddesses deserve the G's. Money, 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 money. So in the book, Goddesses Deserve the G's, I talk about like basically you've walked into or were born into someone else's story about money. And so when you think about your parents, like what was their perspective about finances? What was their perspective about investing? What was their perspective about the mortgage or bills? Did they dread them when like they would get a bill? Did they run credit card balances with high interest rates, for example? Were they always in scarcity mode? That's kind of how I grew up. And after doing this call with my CFO, I was like, oh, my chest was so tight. I had all this like energy that was just like trapped, like, oh my gosh, because we like connected all of my accounts, for example, in this one little handy online tool. But it was like going through and seeing all the bar graphs and all the numbers and the pluses and the minuses and the this and the that. And it's just, I finally told him, I was like, my goodness, I'm like, this is so overwhelming. And I actually have been working for a long time on being good with money. I'm really good with money. I'm like a millionaire. Like I managed to like do really well, like got promoted when I used to work corporate, got raises, like was really interested in investing. And I'm thinking like, what do other people feel? Do they feel as overwhelmed as I do? I'm like, my goodness, like when you talk to people, I was talking to my CFO, when you talk to other people about money, I was like, do people, especially like women, are they feeling as overwhelmed as I do right now? And that's like an interesting thing to sort of consider. Like, do you get sort of like all tight? He was asking, have you signed up for these things online? I'm like, no, I kind of prefer to get them in paper because it's easier. I don't have to go and like kind of glance more than just a little bit at it. Like, okay, good, that looks good. Like, we'll let it go. So I wanted to talk for a few minutes about like what you can do when like looking at your money. Like, are you facing it? Like that's one of the first things that I want to say is like, do you really look at your bank account? Like, do you know what's in it? Or are you trying to go and be like, oh, I don't really want to see that. Like, okay, that's not a great number. Like, or are you overspending, for example, more than you've got, and you kind of know that you're doing it, but you're trying to ignore it? Also, not something necessarily that's going to put you in a really good goddess spot, because goddesses like want to know what it's looking for. What are your goals? Like, are you balancing your checkbook, for example? Are you on top of your spending? I think in addition to the other thing is like to recognize when you're feeling overwhelmed. Like for me, just to even call it out there and say like, wow, I'm so overwhelmed at this moment with all of this information, with all of this stuff online, with all of this like lack of intuitive like understanding. These things are not set up always by people who think like I do, maybe think like you do. And you're like, wow, which tab, what does this mean, like all of that. Having like a handy ally, kind of like I do now with my CFO and like investment helper, like that's a really really good thing. But I remember being for a number of years thinking I didn't have enough money to have anybody who was going to help me. Like it wasn't worth their while. And so for a long time, I didn't, other than like a retirement account through my business for the companies that I work for, I didn't really have anybody to help me because I thought nobody's going to help me. I don't have enough money. But honestly, that's not true because there's a lot of investment analysts, for example, who are out there who work with people of certain like income levels, who work with minorities, for example, or work with women. There's a new crop of small boutique investors who recognize the fact that this isn't just all like, an issue for like a bunch of men. And I'm going to use the word like, because finance is so dominated by a bunch of white men. And that's not necessarily something that we all feel sort of comfortable saying, but it's like there's a certain country club feel to this investing sometimes. And I know I certainly live up in an area where there's a lot of hedge fund guys, and I'm telling you, like they all kind of look and walk the same way. But that doesn't mean that you as a goddess woman can't go and like be good at money. Something that I talk a lot about, like I said in my book. So in addition to facing it, sort of recognize where you get overwhelmed, recognize where you can have some help, and also recognize like where your spending sort of like or saving sort of feelings are. Like I'm more of a saver like than I'm a spender, and that comes from like growing up without having a lot of money. But also seeing the types of stress that my parents like became basically under because they were spending so much to support our family of 8 on a limited salary, for example. So anyway, I just wanted to go and do a quick video to say that goddesses do deserve the G's. Women are good at money. But there's also days where you have moments where you're just like, oh my gosh, this is so overwhelming. But you can take like a breath, take a step back. You can call it out there like I did. But also be like, okay, woo, this is a great opportunity to face another sort of piece head on. And that's kind of what I said to my CFO is I'm kind of modeling my own work right now. That you can go and be good at money, but you can also have these moments where you're just like, whoa, I've got like some stuff, like some stories I need to clear. Like this stuff is so complicated. Like, why do you make it so complicated? Like, why does it have to be like this? And then you can just let it go and be like, okay, I'll just like let go of all that overwhelm. Any frustration you have as to not understanding sort of what it is, ask for it to be like explained to you, or go online and just decide you're just going to freaking face it. Like I'm going to look up and I'm going to see like, what is this particular piece? What is this form 941 that I need to go and like provide? For example, to the IRS, something I had to do like today, looking for it in my files and being like, okay, I'm going to have to email my old accountant and be like, okay, hey, where is this? So anyway, money, we're good at it. Do we have moments where we're just like, oh my God, like there's so much to keep track of, or there's so like much information out there. Like, where do I start? How do I make heads and tails of like how much I owe, how much I spend, all of that. There are great tools. And it's, like I said, a goddess goes and finds the ones that are the best for her. So this is Goddess Moneymaker. I've got my shirt on actually today. It's Goddess Moneymaker, which you can't quite see, which I designed specifically as part of my goddess gear because I wanted to be reminded when I needed it that I am a goddess moneymaker and you're a goddess moneymaker too. But we're also human and we have human things come up about money. And like I said, if I can get over it and become a millionaire, so freaking can you if you so choose. But basically, you can have as much money as you want. But the biggest thing is goddesses are abundant. So let's all go be abundant. And here's Ava signing out.